86 minutes, 14 songs and 2 discs. That is the 5th studio album by Frost. And they made a double album. And the reason why they made this a double album is because they hadn't done a double album before. So that's why they decided we gotta have a double album. So that's what they set out to do, and that became Life in the Wires.
Hey there kids, we are in Halo and you're watching LiveProg.
Hey there, welcome to LiveProg. I am Marcel Haster and I'm here to talk about the brand new 5th studio album Life in the Wires by Frost. An album that I definitely have been enjoying. Before they released the album, they put out a couple of singles. That's what they do these days. They put out 3 singles, then they put out the album. So they create some interest in the album that people can already get an idea of what it sounds like, and then they can buy it, of course. We hope, of course, that a lot of people are buying this album. I think it's a really great album. I'm really happy with that. When it comes to Frost, I don't always find it the easiest music to put on and to listen to. Sometimes I really have to be in a certain mood to put it on. I find it a little bit more difficult music, so to say, which I find funny because, Jem Godfrey created a lot of, chart-topping pop songs, which are very easy to listen to. But with Frost, he goes the other way to the musical spectrum, and he can put all his creativity in this one, and that creates some really interesting albums. The biggest one that I found difficult to put on is Experience in Mass Appeal. Million Town, that is an album I put on a regular basis, but this one I don't play that much. I should play it a little bit more often because there are a couple of really amazing songs on it. But that was for a long time the only Frost music I had. I missed out, of course, a lot. So when I heard that the band was working on new music, I decided, I'll get Day and Age, their previous album. And that was a good one because this album is created in such a way that it is a back-to-back link with them, where Day and Age ends, Life in the Wire starts. So that's what I like about it. But at the same time, the concepts between both albums are different. With this one, I read, and I also noticed it when listening to it, that there are not solos on that. And in a way, I think solos are a bit obligatory, so maybe that's why they chose, let's not do that. That is a reason, but fortunately on Life in the Wires the solos are there, and there's more room for the musicians to shine. Also the lineup, we have of course Jem Godfrey on vocals, on keyboards and doing also some guitar. We have John Mitchell on guitar, Nathan King on bass and Craig Blundell on drums. And the 4 of them create a fantastic album that really made me enthusiastic. When I heard that first song, Life in the Wire Part 1, that was the point where I was like, okay man, this sounds good, I want to hear more. And now I have the full album and I gotta say I'm really happy with that. What I also like is when they put out that first song, they also put out a sort of interactive website with that radio you see on the cover, where you can actually, fiddle with the knobs and create some sounds and get some effects out of it, which is really cool. But also they kind of did something with the artwork on the album. Let's have a look. All right, let's take a look at the artwork then, because I noticed something that I was like, I gotta show that in a little more detail. This is of course the front cover, where you have the radio, which they also showed in the video of Life in the Wires Part 1. And of course, when you turn it around, you have the back side of the radio with the track listing. And what I like then is when you open it up, you have the inside of the radio. So they really thought about this. It's a really nice concept. I kind of like it. The whole thing about these digi-sleeves, I'm a little bit in doubt. I mean, maybe it's environmentally friendly, but then again, if you tear something by accident or something, you can't replace it. And when you have a plastic jewel case and it breaks, you can just get a new one and you have a good CD again. So there are 2 sides to it, but at the same time, the whole idea of the packaging is quite nice. I can't even get it entirely in frame, but as you can see, this is the artwork, which is very cool. Now you have on this one, you have the first CD, which is again with the inside of the radio, which is kind of nice. And then you have on this one, you have the second disc with the oculus, or the all-seeing eye. I gotta put it like this, of course. This is disc 2. And then you have the booklet, which goes up on this way. the album starts with Sky Waving, and I gotta say that was like, wow, it's a really beautiful piano-based song, but it's only very short, and then we move into the full band song with Life in the Wires Part 1, where you hear the familiar Frost sound, which I definitely like very much. There are 8 songs on that first album that I definitely enjoy. I'm not going to do a track by track, but I'm going to talk about a few songs that really stood out for me a little bit. And there is a pattern in those songs, I'll be honest about that, because after Life in the Wires Part 1, we get This House of Winter. And when I was listening to that, it was like, this is a really beautiful piano-based ballad. And I really enjoy that. And there's another one coming later on, which is the last track of the album, Absent Friends, that is also this really beautiful ballad song. And what I like is that you have that heavier, that driven sound by Frost, which is, well, familiar when you put on the album. Think Life in the Wires Part 1, think Million Town, those kinds of songs. But then you have these ballads which create a little bit of a contrast, rest moments in the music, and I really am happy that they included that. But the other thing that I like about This House on the Winter is that we have some solos in it. It's a beautiful guitar solo by John Mitchell, and the second half of that song is like a more instrumental, and that is really a part where you can kind of dream away and leave all your worries behind you. It's a really beautiful moment. So yeah, that is definitely a standout song for me. Another thing that you will notice when you listen to the album, and that's not just the first disc, but also on the second disc, is that you have this kind of a radio voice, Mr. Livewire, who does some narration in between the songs. And I kind of like that because that gives you the idea that you are listening to a radio broadcast. And that kind of reminds me of Radio Chaos by Roger Waters, where he does a similar thing with a radio broadcast and everything. And yeah, it's different. They do it different here. But I like the atmosphere that these parts create in the songs. And I gotta be honest, I really enjoy the atmosphere on the album. It is really beautiful, but when I mentioned, there's 14 tracks, there's one track that I'm not really a big fan of, and that is the first track on the second disc, which is called School, introducing the all-seeing eye. That's a bit of a strange track. I don't know what to think about it. It's electronic, it's with drums, and it's got some sort of industrial sounds. I don't know, but it's kind of a weird song. Fortunately, it moves into Propaganda, which is another proper Frost song. And there's another beautiful ballad on it, Signs of Life, on that second disc. But what I like here is that they don't just do another piano-based ballad. And again, they add some elements to make it more interesting. In this case, they add some electronic sounds in it, which creates a bit of a different atmosphere that I definitely enjoy very much. Then there's another real highlight on this album, and that is Moral and Consequence, the fourth track on the second disc. When you listen to that song, it is 8 minutes of pure musical delight with several amazing solos in it, and wow. But then you get to Life in the Wires Part 2, which is almost 16 minutes, and again, 16 minutes of musical delight on that album. That is it's a really fantastic track. I really think it's amazing. It's not 26 minutes like they did on Million Town, but it is still a very impressive track. And the album ends, and I thought the album would end with a sort of a cool down after this, extensive musical exercise, which starting fires. Again, I should have figured that would not be a cooling down, because you don't cool down with starting fires, you heat things up again, because it starts out with piano, but it then moves into a more heavier sound again. But again, that is a really great song to end the album with. So altogether, I think it's a fantastic album. I mean, I read some reviews that were not so positive about the album, and I don't know where that comes from, because I have been enjoying this album. And in fact, like I mentioned, I had some difficulties with getting into Frost, and I don't have all the studio albums. But I gotta say, from the albums I have, this has become my favorite Frost album. It's a beautiful album. I really enjoy listening to it. I have listened to it a lot of times, and every time when you listen to it, I hear some new details in the music, I hear some more, and it starts to really grow on me. It's not an album that maybe you instantly love. Maybe it needs some time, but give it time, and you will see that this is absolutely a fabulous album, a really beautiful album. So all I can say is, go out, get yourself a copy, and listen to the album. And let me know in the comments, what is your favorite track on the album? What do you think of the album? And let's be civil and nice, of course. But I'm curious what you think of it. I'm a happy guy with this one. This is now my favorite Frost album, and I hope it will be yours as well. So go check it out, Life in the Wires by Frost. Thank you for watching, and enjoy the music.